here a very good presentation on how we have remittances and how the remittances are growing. Now, our challenge is to make sure these remittances don't go to consumption only, but are also directed to investments. And that is why, particularly, we have the Kenya Diaspora Investment Strategy here with us today. Our Prime Cabinet Secretary, we are very glad to be with you today and blessed to have this document, which is your document. Thank you. So, I will not read all this because of time, but mainly I want to talk of remittances, because these are our source now of investment for the diaspora. They are the largest source, as we have heard before, of our foreign exchange in Kenya, and they have surpassed so many other domestic sources of foreign exchange. And they have also helped us have almost 6 times import cover in Kenya right now. As you rightly also know, they have also helped us in stabilizing our Kenya shilling, which is doing very well now and very resilient compared to other major world currencies. Now, despite all these flows, most of it have been going to consumption, and that is what we want to change. So we want to have a paradigm shift from taking these remittances to domestic consumption to now real investments in Kenya. There are several challenges. Some of them include access to information, complex regulatory environments, and trust issues. Okay, so this is the first Kenya Diaspora Investment Strategy that has been developed by the State Department for Diaspora Affairs, and we are glad to have it continue implementing it and also making sure that we also adhere to our bottom-up economic transformation agenda and the Kenya Vision 2030. A few facts. I want to mention that Kenya is now the 4th largest recipient of remittances in Africa, currently around 4.94. This year we expect to go even further. We have Egypt, Nigeria, Morocco. I wanted to tell you that we have surpassed Ghana. We were number 5, but now we are number 4, going to number 3 and 2 and 1 in the near future. So we are doing very well in terms of remittances. We also want to ensure that our Kenyans in the diaspora do savings through SACCOs, and that is one of the main aim of this document. Having looked at the remittances trends all over, they are mainly directed by our Kenyan migration patterns, and our State Department of Diaspora Affairs has been very instrumental in making sure we get opportunities for Kenyans abroad, and also, apart from getting these opportunities, we also ensure that we check on their rights and welfare while abroad. Now, after all this, the end point is to have the remittances back home and invest. As you know, when you go abroad and come back, people will always ask you, what do you have? So that is why we are saying we must invest. There are several options, investment options in Kenya. Technology and innovation sector we have the Konza Technopolis. In agriculture, we have value chains such as leather, milk, red meat, all of which have a significant global demand. This is part of the bottom-up economic transformation agenda. So it's one of the very core components of the government economic blueprint. Renewable and blue energy sources, economy, infrastructure, healthcare, manufacturing, digital superhighway is a very new venture that we are looking into. And also, I must mention this one, the creative economy. You've seen Kenyans, especially the young Turks, are really talented youth, and they have diversity in terms of music, theater, film, digital, crafts, and fashion. So we want to tap this as part of an area where we can invest in, and which is lucrative and coming up very well. In our development of this document, we looked at several issues that underlie the investment in Kenya. One of them is, I'll just go through the PESTEL, which is political, economic, social, technological, environmental, and legal. I've mentioned a few areas where we looked at and we saw some issues here and there where we are going to make sure we have the interventions as mentioned here. But in the document, it's very clear on all the interventions we are going to put into use. Let me just look at one of them, which is issues of social, that is on trust. We are looking at where Kenyans have invested, but sometimes they have sent the money, but it has not been used in the rightful investment, maybe by their siblings or any other people. So the government of Kenya deemed it fit to come up with the Diaspora Investment Support Office, which is domiciled in the State Department for Diaspora Affairs, and mainly is to hold hands with the diaspora in their investment and act as a one-stop shop for investment in Kenya for the diaspora. And all ethical issues, including issues of arbitration and mediation, can be done in the Diaspora Investment Support Office. Some of our strengths are the growth and opportunities we have in labor markets. We have some few threats and weaknesses which the strategy is addressing. So I'll go straight to the goals. The first goal in this strategy is to build trust and enhance diaspora investments. We have a lot of strategies and activities under that. The second most important one is to expand diaspora investment alternatives, where we are coming up with new upcoming diaspora investment alternatives. And I will mention one here about the diaspora bond. Our Prime Cabinet Secretary, I know you are very passionate about this. We are trying to champion the issuance of the diaspora bond, and we look forward to your very good office to assist us in making this a reality. Number three, we enhance awareness on diaspora investment alternatives. We create a lot of awareness on that. We also want to improve the business environment for diaspora investment, try to make the one-stop shops, look at the issues as underlying the business investments in Kenya and make sure we get solutions to that. The diaspora investment protection, I've mentioned that. We have already established the Diaspora Investment Support Office, which will be very crucial in undertaking this. There are several stakeholders who are all here, who have really helped us in making sure that we have this document. And I will not mention their names. I thank you so much for being part of us and helping us achieve our very big goal here today. Some cross-cutting issues that I wanted also to mention about this strategy is on gender inclusivity. So we are making sure that all our investment options also target other gender issues, like also the youth. We're also focusing on them, and the new kid on the block, climate action and sustainable investments are also catered for. And lastly here, for the cost-cutting issues, remember somebody here was presenting about the second and third generation engagement. This is part and parcel of this strategy, and we are making sure we engage them fully. This document must be implemented, and we must see results for it. That's why we have come up with a monitoring and evaluation framework, which is mainly looking at our 5 goals. We'll have a baseline, that is what we have now, and now the actuals, what we'll achieve, and then we'll see the deviation, if there's any deviation, a positive or a negative one, and then we'll look at intervention measures if they are needed. And this document will be monitored midway, so there will be a midterm review of the document, and then that midterm review will also help us enhance on how we are approaching the last bit of it. So close monitoring will be done and evaluation. This is a summary of the Kenya Diaspora Investments strategy. It is a house with a vision and several pillars, 5 pillars which are the goals, and we have several objectives that are aimed at achieving these goals and our great vision of ensuring that Kenya Diaspora Investment Strategy, the vision is to increase the quantity and quality of diaspora investment in Kenya to support inclusive national development. Thank you very much, and be blessed.
Your Excellency, you know, Mr. Kusimba is an economist, and he promised to be economic with words. I had given him 5 minutes, but thank you very much, Mr. Kusimba, for that brief. I want these people to read the document. You've read it, Karibu Wasome. But thank you very much. Our next speaker, briefly, is Mr. John McCree, who is the acting Chief of Mission of IOM. Once again, really, we appreciate the support you have given us in these booklets and for walking the journey with us. Karibu, John.
His Excellency Dr. Musalia Mudavadi, Prime Cabinet Secretary and Cabinet Secretary for Foreign and Diaspora Affairs. Rosalind Njogu, Principal Secretary, State Department for Diaspora Affairs. Victoria Porter, First Secretary, British High Commission. Distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen, good afternoon. I've noticed that we have a very efficient timekeeper, so I will keep my remarks short. I'd like to start with thanking everybody for their participation in this workshop. It provides us with a great platform to engage a wide group of stakeholders in the discussion on enhancing the impact of remittances through investment, philanthropy, and private sector engagement. I'd also specifically like to thank the Government of Kenya and donor to the United Kingdom for committing your time to these discussions. Your commitment has strengthened the role of remittances in Kenya's diaspora investments, and that has been seen by the numbers that have been quoted by the previous speakers. I think in 2024 was a record year, and it was close to 700 billion, or close to 4% of Kenya's GDP. And that has been a number that's been growing every year. I think my colleague Nick mentioned we're now looking at 1 trillion, and I think these numbers will continue to grow exponentially. So Kenyan diaspora has demonstrated that remittances can support not only households, but can also fund investments in infrastructure, housing, health facilities, and startups, as well as education. Such initiatives illustrate how remittance can be scaled into long-term wealth creation and inclusive growth when supported by the right policies and frameworks. And I think the Government of Kenya has made it very clear that this is a space that they want to focus on, making a policy and frameworks that are remittance friendly. This workshop has provided a space to amplify success stories, as well as identify barriers and develop a roadmap that can help unlock future impact. Through funding from the Foreign, Commonwealth and Development Office, IOM is collaborating with remittance sending diaspora communities in the UK, as well as receiving households here in Kenya, to implement a range of interventions with a few key outcomes. The goal is for diaspora communities in the UK and receiving communities to have access to increased information on safe and affordable remittance services. I think this is a very large step in improving the potential of the diaspora community is just information, and I think today we're talking about how we're making information available to the larger community. It's also focused on increased understanding engagement with financial stakeholders on the barriers and opportunities that they face and how we can address them to reduce costs and increase the impact of remittances. So many Kenyan communities also benefit from diaspora support to community development and resilience initiatives through online co-funding mechanisms. And of course, finally, the development of the digital remittance booklet and solutions for improving remittance management. This will be a comprehensive online resource which has been developed to guide migrant workers and their families on best practices for sending, receiving, and investing in remittance effectively. It really is move forward in bridging the information gap and improving financial decision making. At a global level, IOM has been dedicated to partnering and strengthening remittances globally. It's not only Kenya where we see the remittances. So we do that through our 3E strategy, which is enable, engage, and empower framework, which helps diaspora members leverage their skills, networks, and financial resources for sustainable development in both their home and host countries. In Kenya, this has included several key initiatives, including the assessments on remittance flows from key countries to Kenya, identifying gaps and opportunities for investments. It's included supporting the diaspora policy, which aligns with global best practices to enhance diaspora contributions. We've, of course, supported the first version of the guide, which is the Send Money and Invest in Kenya, and now an updated version, and reaching out to communities with capacity building initiatives and awareness creation to enable remittance recipients to make informed decisions and choices on their investments. Maybe I'd just say one or two small comments about how this initiative actually aligns with global development agendas. What we're discussing today is very much in line with the Africa Union's 2063 agenda, which underscores the importance of diaspora engagement in Africa's transformation. It's also in line with the Global Compact for Safe, Orderly, and Regular Migration, particularly Objective 20, which calls for specifically for lowering remittance transfer costs and enhancing financial inclusion. And of course, with the Sustainable Development Goals, SDG 10C, which aims to also reduce remittance transfer costs to less than 3% by 2030. Finally, I'd like to say, ask everybody here to seize this opportunity to make use of and publicize the diaspora investment strategy and the online remittance booklet. I look forward to building on and continuing the partnerships that have been developed today and streamlining remittances, which will open opportunities for our diaspora to invest in Kenya. Thank you very much, and I wish you all a great afternoon.
Thank you very much, John. As I said, thank you for walking the journey with us. Our other key partner has been UK International Development, represented here from the British High Commission by Victoria Potter. Please, karibu sana. Make your quick remarks and then we can move to the next part.
Prime Cabinet Secretary Mudavadi, Principal Secretary Njogo, Acting Chief of Mission IOM McHugh, ladies and gentlemen, good afternoon. All protocols observed. It is a pleasure to represent the UK today, and I'm very, very sorry that the High Commissioner cannot make it himself. Through our new UK-Kenya strategic partnership signed in July by His Excellency President Ruto and Prime Minister Starmer, we have committed to work together on science and technology, in line with SDG targets and financial inclusion goals. And not only that, we have committed to work together on better managing migration, an issue that is a high priority for both our governments. So this launch today of the Kenya Diaspora Investment Strategy and Diaspora Remittance Booklet happily brings together both those goals. And so on behalf of the British High Commission, I congratulate the PCS, PS, Government of Kenya and IOM on this launch of these impactful documents. Under the Better Regional Migration Management Programme, the UK has worked with partners across East Africa to help make labour migration safer and more productive. We thank Kenya as a key partner. Kenya, as evidenced today, has shown real leadership across the region, drafting policy and supporting skills development and protection measures for Kenyans who wish to migrate in search of work. The Diaspora Remittance Booklet contains tips to ensure a successful migration journey, from doing the planning process to avoiding financial scams and investing for a secure future. It is in all our interests for this to get shared wide, so please share it on all your social media. We've deepened our partnership with Kenya, not just here in Nairobi, but also working closely with Kenya Diaspora in the UK and exploring ways to make remittances cheaper and more productive. Through enabling as many people as possible to access digital remittance services, we've helped to significantly reduce the cost incurred when sending remittances from the UK to Kenya. The positive impact of this will be felt at the local level, in people's pockets, where it matters most, and also to Kenya's economy. So I'll end with a huge Asante Sana to Your Excellency PCS, PS, and IOM for your strategic cooperation, for your collaboration, and particularly also the team behind the scenes working hard to enable the launch of these documents today. Asante.
Thank you much, Victoria, for that assurance about future partnerships. Your Excellency, the Prime CS, in the last few months, the PS has been hammering our heads, asking us, when are we launching these documents? So I'm very happy that we open in 2026, PS, after ingine. So, but thank you so much for all the support. You've walked this journey with us. You have advised us. You have shown us the way. So we are happy that we are closing the year launching this booklet. So let me have the pleasure of inviting our peers, Ms. Roslyn Kadure-Njogu, to make her remarks and invite His Excellency, the Prime CS.
Thank you, Balozi. My boss, PCS, Chief of Mission IOM, representative of the UK government, our friend David Burner from IFAD, friends, colleagues, members of the diaspora who I noted. I was able to see a number here. Maybe diasporans, if you could wave your hands. I know you're home already. I know the summer bunnies. There you go. The summer bunnies are here. Are you winter bunnies? You're here. Karibuni sana nyumbani. And to our diaspora who are, of course, joining us virtually for this launch. Colleagues, friends, our team, good afternoon. Good afternoon. All right. So I am as excited as the previous speakers to be here to join you this afternoon at the end of our multi-stakeholder consultative workshop that was co-hosted by ourselves, by the IOM, by the UKID, through the FCDO, and that culminates in the launch that we'll have shortly of the Kenya Diaspora Investment Strategy 2025 to 2030, and the updated Diaspora Remittance Booklet that has been graced by our boss, PCS. I'm happy also because this is one of the few conversations where we get to have migration positive stories. Often when people talk about migration, it is usually in very polarizing language. On the one hand, it is usually certain countries telling migrants, go back home. Yes? So it is usually very negative stories of go back where you came from, you're not welcome here, or, usually very dark stories of people who have gone to other countries using unclear paths. On the other hand, migration as well, or diaspora stories, are usually often extractive stories of people talking about we are being asked to send money constantly at home. People only see us as remittances or see us as an ATM card, something that my clients in the diaspora speak to quite often. And the conversation is usually tuma na utume na yakutoa. All right, so I'm happy to be having a conversation that's not about sort of these horrible dark stories, and that's not about tuma na yakutoa, even though we are going to be talking a lot about kutuma. All right, so thank you, Aziri, for making it. This really, I know this is something that you really care about, diaspora investment, and you're the champion for the diaspora bond, the diaspora investment bond, and looking forward to hearing some of that conversation from you. But for us, having the diaspora investment strategy moves our conversation in terms of how we engage with our diaspora to a much more strategic conversation. It answers the question, what are diasporas for? My enemies are succeeding. Okay. It answers the question, what are diasporas for? Or what is the promise of a diaspora? What can a diaspora do for its country? So let me thank IOM, let me thank the FCDO, and Waziri, let me say, this conversation on the diaspora investment strategy actually began in a London board. I wonder if the FCDO team is possibly here. Are they here? Tamasha and Co. They were online. In a boardroom conversation at the FCDO, where a Kenyan diaspora had convened this conversation, we started to talk about structuring and systematizing diaspora investments. And we talked about what some other countries had done. And then we said we needed to put out the government of Kenya's statement of intent on how we are going to work with our diaspora in a structured way to really harness funds and to give them clear opportunities for investment. So FCDO was critical in that conversation. I want to thank IFAD, I want to thank GIZ, VIDU, Africa Institute on Remittances, and all government MDAs, a number of whom are represented here, on the work that they've done with us to put together this document. But to ask maybe the question differently, what are diasporas for? Or what can diasporas do? I often tell this story in our diaspora engagements these days, and which I think is much more fun than reading my notes. I tell this story. How many of us in the room know a friend or a family member who has a sick relative, or who's at some point had a relative in India going for treatment? I have been a teacher. I am actually asking to see hands. Okay, good. All right, so almost everybody knows somebody who has had to go to India for treatment. But did you know that the Indian healthcare system was built on the back of their diaspora? Their diaspora remittance, their diaspora investment, diaspora expertise, knowledge, know-how, networks. So that whole thing, that in many ways defines one of the big things that we know about India, is a creature of their diaspora. Story number one. Story number two. I had the opportunity, and I'm happy to see we've overtaken Ghana in remittances. But about a year ago, Excellency, I went to Ghana. And we had a conversation with the person who holds my job in Ghana. And we're talking about, the impact of diasporas. And he told me, do you know that the first cocoa beans to come to Ghana were brought by a diaspora and returning home? He just figured, okay, I'm going to go and see I found this thing somewhere. I'm going to go and try it out at home and see how it does. When I was growing up, when someone was saying irrelevant things, we used to tell them, how does that change the price of cocoa in Ghana? I tell that story. Apparently, people didn't grow up in my house because nobody else used to say that, or I probably came from a very rude part of this country where people say things like that. But it built an entire important part of the economy of Ghana on the idea and of the dream of one diasporan. Okay? Third and final story. This one I'll start with a question to the students of history. Who can tell me a globally significant event that happened around 68 AD? 68 AD, 70 AD. Where are the students of history? Okay, where are the students of diplomatic history? My foreign service officers, I'm focusing on you. A little bit disappointed. Okay. Any guesses? Any guesses? Something globally significant that happened in 68, 70 AD. Nobody? Yes, in the back, Warutere? I'm sorry? The destruction of what? The first temple. So that is, you get half the mark. But it was the invasion of Jerusalem, right? And the sacking of Jerusalem. Jerusalem was taken by the Romans at the time, yes? And from that year until which year did we eventually have the return of the state of Israel? This one I'll be very disappointed if you can't tell me. When did we have the state of Israel reorganizing itself? 1948. How is it possible that you can completely overrun a country, take its people away, and 2,000 years later, restart? Because the idea of nationhood, the idea of their culture, their faith, their customs, their dreams and aspirations continued forever for 2,000 years in the diaspora. That is the power of diaspora. Diasporas are able to carry dreams, aspirations, ideas, even nationhood in the dispersion, and then be able to rebirth an idea, a state, a nation. So that is who we are talking about, and that is a group that we want to serve. That is a group that we seek to serve, and that is a group that we know by having a clear and structured conversation with, we can change the trajectory of this country, we can embed national development, and we can basically do great things. So I know that we've talked about the DIS being anchored on 4 strategic pillars: building trust and enhancing investments, expanding investment alternatives, and enhancing awareness, and improving the business environment. And Okusimba, for example, talked to us about how we are doing that, and talked about the Diaspora Investment Support Office and so on. So as we do this, and as we think about safe and clear ways of sending money home, I want us to have the broader idea of what diasporas can do. What is the dream of the diaspora? What is this thing that hasn't been tapped into, that can build entire economies, can build entire economies, whether in agriculture or in health, or that can rebirth entire nations? This is the idea I want to leave with you in your imagination as I invite my boss, the Prime Cabinet Secretary and CES for Foreign and Diaspora Affairs. Please let's put our hands together as we invite Waziri Mkuu. Asanteni sana.
Don't worry, I'll not ask any hard questions like the piece. So let me go straight into business. Madam Roslyn Jogo, Secretary, State Department for Diaspora Affairs, Mr. John McHugh, the Acting Chief of Mission, International Organization for Migration in Kenya, our international partners and esteemed private sector, the diaspora members who are here and listening to us virtually, distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen. Today marks another significant milestone in the ongoing policy innovations by our State Department for Diaspora Affairs. I am truly delighted to join you for the launch of the Kenya Diaspora Investment Strategy, an initiative that highlights our commitment to empowering the Kenyan diaspora as a vital pillar of national development. Accordingly, I commend our team at the State Department for Diaspora Affairs and the Principal Secretary, Madam Jogu, for their constructive engagement in developing the Kenya Diaspora Investment Strategy. I also acknowledge the invaluable partnership of the International Organization for Migration in strengthening diaspora engagement and promoting remittances-linked investments. We extend special thanks to Mr. John McHugh, the Acting Chief of Mission in Kenya. The government appreciates the contributions of our international development partners, including the Foreign Commonwealth and Development Office, FCDO, the IOM, the Commonwealth Foundation, the International Fund for Agricultural Development, IFAD, and GIZ WIDU for their support and partnership. I recognize the presence of representatives from other government departments and ministries and agencies, the private sector, financial institutions, diaspora organizations, and development partners whose enriching discussions and input led to the development of this strategy. Today's event has been made possible through the collaboration between the State Department of Diaspora Affairs and the IOM Kenya in organizing this multi-sector stakeholder workshop on enhancing the impact of remittances through investments, philanthropy, and private sector engagement. The Kenya government fully supports and appreciates the role played by the Kenyan diaspora in advancing the country's socioeconomic development. Diaspora remittances remain a lifeline for millions of households and a key driver of national growth. Reaching $5.08 billion in the 12 months to June 2025, that is a 12.1% increase from the previous year. The remittances now account for 4.6% of Kenya's GDP, surpassing traditional earners such as tea, coffee, and tourism. And indeed, Mr. Kusimba was able to display that. While remittances are currently largely used for consumption, workshops like this help build strategies and networks to transform them into highly impactful investments. A key step in this effort is the Diaspora Investment Strategy, a major milestone in channeling diaspora and remittances into sustainable, long-term investments that drive job creation, innovation, and industrial growth. Its vision is to foster an enabling, transparent, and inclusive environment that builds trust, promotes innovation, and safeguards diaspora investments. The strategy was developed through a whole-of-government, multi-stakeholder process, incorporating inputs from MDAs, diaspora organizations, the private sector, and international partners, including those that are with us here this afternoon. Notably, the Diaspora Investment Strategy aligns the government's bottom-up economic transformation agenda and Kenya's Vision 2030 goals, focusing on sustainable development through increased investment, trade, and enterprise creation. The Kenya Diaspora Investment Strategy is anchored on 5 pillars: building trust and enhancing diaspora investments, expanding investment alternatives such as diaspora bonds, pooled funds, and blended financing mechanisms. 3, increasing awareness of viable investment opportunities across priority sectors. 4th, improving the business environment to facilitate ease of doing business for the diaspora. 5, establishing a diaspora investment protection framework to enhance investor confidence. Further, the strategy identifies priority investment sectors, which include technology, agriculture, manufacturing, healthcare, renewable energy, infrastructure, and the creative economy. It also incorporates cross-cutting themes such as youth engagement, gender inclusivity, climate action, and second-generation diaspora integration. To this end, I am pleased to announce the Diaspora Investment Support Office, established under the Executive Order No. 1 of 2025, which will serve as the dedicated semi-autonomous agency responsible for implementing the strategy and coordinating diaspora investment, facilitation, and other stakeholders. The government encourages financial institutions, fintech innovators, and development partners to continue reducing remittance costs. I'll repeat that. Continue reducing remittance costs, expanding digital financial inclusion, and creating structured pathways for diaspora investments. We commend the IOM for the digital remittance booklet, a practical guide that promotes secure, affordable, and accessible remittance channels. We recognize the importance of collaboration with the Kenya Investment Authority, the Central Bank, commercial banks, and county governments in fostering a conducive investment climate and linking diaspora capital with local enterprise. The diaspora are encouraged to leverage the diaspora investment strategy to channel their remittances into productive investments. Correspondingly, I urge the private sector and development partners to work with the government in developing innovative financial products tailored for diaspora investments. We also invite the county governments to deepen their engagement with the diaspora by establishing diaspora investment desks and aligning county investment priorities with the National Diaspora Investment Framework. The government is confident that the successful implementation of the Diaspora Investment Strategy will, among others, increase diaspora investments and savings, strengthen investor protection and trust, expand diaspora enterprise collaborations, and position Kenya as a premier destination for diaspora investment in Africa. At this juncture, let me reaffirm to the diaspora that the government of Kenya remains fully committed to protecting the rights, investments, and welfare of both at home, of diaspora people both at home and abroad. In conclusion, the launch of the Diaspora Investment Strategy marks a new chapter in Kenya's diaspora diplomacy and strengthens its role as a key driver of our economic diplomacy. I thank all participants for their continued support and invite them to join us in turning the strategy's vision into measurable action and lasting impact. So before I move to the corner there, let me just highlight a couple of points. One, on the issue of the diaspora bond, we have been engaging with critical players like MEGA. This is a World Bank arm that helps in guaranteeing investments. So we are having conversations. They sent missions to Nairobi, and we hope to continue taking this to the next level so that we can have the right package that would then attract sufficient attention from the diaspora. And we also want to make sure that we are not just inward looking. Because some of the other countries that have succeeded with diaspora bonds have also opened a portion of it to other investors, not necessarily from the country of birth. So we need to have an open mind that as we develop this, we will need to have a certain portion to also attract even more investment into this bond with our other friendly brothers and sisters from other countries. So I think I should be able to flag that to just help. The second thing I want to emphasize is that what is good for the investment here, for the investor here, should be equal to what the diaspora is looking for. If the investment climate is wrong, even for the Kenyan investor who is domiciled here, then it is not right for the diasporan investor either. So I want us to look at this investment agenda holistically and globally. It has to be a package. We must create the right environment across the board. That is how we are going to attract investment. So the politicians must do what is right. The legal people must do what is right. The civil society must do what is right. Everybody must remember that we all have, the government must do what is right. We all must work together to be able to create the right environment to woo investment. Capital is shy. When we talk of 5 billion coming in, that is money coming in. We can also talk of capital flight. That is money going out and running away from a hostile investment climate. So it is both ways. I thought I should emphasize some of these things so that we can appreciate. The other is the tax. We have to balance this. As we talk of incentives, I would want to persuade you not to put too much emphasis on tax incentives. That is usually not a very reliable area to incentivize investment, because countries' physical requirements vary, they change, and therefore tax policies are prone to adjustment. We should look at investment more on a long-term basis in terms of other things that we could do. And by the way, I think it should be brought to the attention of everybody that the Constitution of Kenya on tax matters does not give any exemption to a Kenyan on tax at all. please, whether you are here or you are in the diaspora, the Constitution of Kenya does not give you a tax exemption. We may be moving on a trajectory that is not exactly accurate. However, if we are going to create investment instruments, then you can build in some tax incentives somewhat in there, but it can never be a tax that goes to that individual as a benefit. And this is the Constitution of Kenya. This is what we approved. This is what we passed through a referendum that was among the highest globally. 70% of Kenyans through a referendum made this decision. So it's important that I address this so that there's an element of understanding as we plan going forward. Let us not put too much weight around that, but let us do other policy issues. Let us look at other deeper policy issues, long-term commitments. Let us be predictable in the policies that we are putting in place. Let people know that they can forecast and plan over a longer period. Then that way we will start attracting investments. In Kenya, you can remit your dividends without any hiccup. That may not be so for so many other countries. Even as I talk about the remittances here and the cost, even within the East African framework of 8 nations of the East African community, the cost of remittances vary. So even within the context of our regional economic blocks, then we must now engage and see what can we do to kind of harmonize and persuade our brothers and sisters in other countries that we all benefit when there is efficient and free flow of capital and investment in all our countries. We cannot rely on one country having that freedom and others not having it, because ultimately then the benefits will not go to everybody. Finally, let me talk a little bit about 2 points. One is privatization. I really want to plead with Kenyans. Embrace privatization. Embrace privatization. If we go down memory lane, Safaricom is where it is because of privatization. We had a monopoly in the name of KPTC. It was a money guzzler. It was making losses. We opened up the economy. We privatized. We brought in competition in the name of Safaricom, Airtel, what have you. It is from that privatization, that move, that brave move that Kenyans made to embrace the private sector, that made Safaricom the giant that it is. Today, Safaricom has become the largest private sector investor in Ethiopia, starting from running away from a monopoly. I want to tell you Kenyans, my fellow Kenyans, if it was the government making those decisions about investing in Ethiopia, we would never have made it. It is the private sector. We have to embrace privatization. The government of Kenya's stake in Safaricom is about 33%. The government of Kenya is privatizing only a portion of it. not all of it. It's raising money, which can be put into other use, positive other use. Now, how do Kenyans increase their share in Safaricom? It is quoted on the stock exchange. This is a company on the stock exchange. If we had advanced with the Diaspora vessel, the Diaspora vessel would have increased its stake, or can increase its stake in Safaricom. So you take it away from the government, but give it to the Kenyans through the stock market and other investors. But we are talking and misleading people as if the government has committed a mistake. It has not. And in principle, the proportion is that where the government has less or 33% and below, that is regarded as a private entity. And the government is just an investor now in a private entity. So Safaricom is not a parastatal. Safaricom is a private company. I thought these are critical points that are being omitted in the discourse that is going on about privatization. Let me give you another example. KCB. KCB was 100% government owned. The government of Kenya has reduced it to 33% or thereabout. Those of you who are slightly older will remember that when KCB was a parastatal, it used to don blue number plates for their managing director and for their people. The moment the government of Kenya reduced its shareholding to 33% and below, it ceased to be a parastatal and a government entity. It became a private company quoted on the stock exchange. Today, KCB is one of the largest banks in the entire region. And the government of Kenya gets a dividend because we embraced private sector. So, to the Kenyans who are out there, let us apply honesty to this conversation. There's too much conspiracy theory every time. Too much conspiracy theory every time. If you are to ask me, I would push and privatize even more. There are certain state corporations that literally good? Good. Yeah, another one that is private is actually KPLC. Because when the government overstretched, it did an overreach in KPLC. KPLC started making losses for a long time. And in the process, the government decided to override and ignore the fact that KPLC, the private sector, had a right to have 49% of the board membership. The government had decided to take the entire 100%. We made a decision recently and said no. This is a breach of the law and a breach of proper principles of governance. If the Kenyan public, either through the stock market or whatever, have shares to the tune of 49%, they must have appropriate representation on the board. And we must have a situation where the private sector also produces the chair of that entity. I can tell you now, KPLC, which was a monopoly that was making losses, has started turning around, because we are respecting and embracing the private sector. So this message is absolutely important, both to the diaspora and to the people here, because, as I said, we've been sending the wrong signals. We politicians stand out there and say, you are selling the silverware. What is the worth of a rose on a heap of garbage? That's the question we need to keep on asking ourselves. If some of these entities are no longer giving us that, why are we over-politicizing and running this? Accountability, transparency, important. But let it not kill the principle and the direction of privatization. A country's growth, a country's revenue base will grow on the basis of the size and quality of its private sector. If there's no private sector growing in our country, we shall not have revenue to do our roads. So we must not look at privatization and the private sector as an opposition to be crushed. We must embrace and work with the private sector. And this is a strong message for the diaspora and for Kenyan investors. Finally, on a positive note, I think what we are discussing today is extremely important, because we have moved away from what we have been treated to, rightly, and sometimes maybe wrongly. In the last few months, I've been spending a lot of time in Parliament answering questions on why a Kenyan has been arrested in one corner, why a Kenyan has been mistreated in another corner, why this and this, to the extent that it has been clouding this very important message about the diaspora. So as much as we have those challenges and we must address them, I think today is a very positive day, because we are acknowledging that the strength, the power, the commitment of Kenya's diaspora is extremely tremendous and purposeful for the people of Kenya. So we salute you as diasporans, wherever you are, as we do what we have to do. So let me end there. I'm a politician, so you can accuse me of what you so wish, but most important, let us understand that privatization is good, it's healthy for this country, and the President has been talking of setting up an infrastructure fund and all these other things. We are looking at it from the perspective that the donor window is constrained at this point in time, and it will be constrained for a long time. So if you anticipate that you're going to be getting freebies from our development partners and what have you, let us face the reality. We have to start being innovative and looking at other ways of raising resources for our development needs in this country. It is absolutely essential that we face that reality. The other thing, of course, is just to talk and say that when we sign off on international obligations and MOUs. There's a process because we have to be in conformity with the laws of this country, with the Constitution. So we engage in negotiations. We engage with our partners. We consult our Office of Attorney General. You're not going to have a Minister for Foreign Affairs appending a signature to an agreement without having had a situation where the Attorney General office has gone through this. I'm saying this because there's also a misconception that Kenya has given off its data protection and in the various agreements that we have been signing. That is not factual. There are protocols that must be followed. There are protocols that must be adhered to in accordance with our laws and also in accordance with the laws of our partners. And this calls for conversation, deep, intense, candid, as we go ahead. So, asante sana. I think I'm ready to do the needful, and I wish you all success, and thank you for the team that has worked on this. Thank you.
Thank you very much. We'll start off with the launch of the digital remittance booklet. Thank you for removing that. I think we're ready. All right. We now commence with the launch of the digital remittance booklet. We'll start it off with a video and a countdown. Ladies and gentlemen, I'll kindly request that we be upstanding as we celebrate this auspicious occasion of the launch of the digital remittance booklet. We can count down. 10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Thank you so much. You can give a round of applause. Thank you. As we remain standing, we have the pyro set up, and Your Excellency, Dr. Honorable Musalia Mudavadi, this is a digital launch, so we don't have a physical book for you. However, we kindly request that you join us on the podium. You can stand at the center. We'll also request that Madam Roslyn Jogu, the Principal Secretary of the State Department for Diaspora Affairs, accompanies you. We also request Mr. John McHugh, of Mission of IOM Kenya, to accompany you, and we also ask that Victoria Porter accompanies you for this. Great. I'll be guided by the photography team. Are we standing okay? Okay. Your Excellency will have pyros. I can assure you there will be no fire. But just to celebrate this launch, we'll have the pyros, and I'll ask for ululations and hand claps from the guest. Technical team, we are ready for the pyros. Thank you. That is the launch of the digital remittance booklet. Congratulations. Wonderful. Thank you very much. I request that you remain standing there. I've been guided to invite Mr. Nick Wasuna, who was the consultant on this report, to invite the IOM team as well, and to invite Ambassador Kabaria to join you for this photograph before we go to the second launch. So the IOM team, yes. Sorry. Okay. Ladies and gentlemen, I can ask that you be seated for this, and then I'll ask you to stand again. Thank you. Okay. Do we have any other IOM team members who are part of this that would like to join? Salah? Kindly, I'll request that you come on stage a bit fast so that we can take that photo. We have one last photo with the IOM team members, kindly. Okay. Thank you. Thank you. We can encourage them. This has been a great congratulations to the IOM team. Okay. Thank you very much. I'll kindly request the IOM team to be seated. And Your Excellency, now we will proceed to the second launch. We have the launch of the Kenya Diaspora Investment Strategy. I'll that we go to the side where we have the curtains drawn. And I'll request, well, I'll give you the guidance. Please, here, next to this, we have the magic button just in front of you. You can stand there. I'll ask one person to stand next to you on this side.